Hey, awesome. Sorry for the tardiness of this video. I was trying to get this out to you yesterday, and I obviously did not, so I do sincerely apologize. So we need to talk about, so we've got the reading quiz due tonight. Today's Wednesday, and then the next thing that's due is leaving peer review feedback for a couple of your peers in this project, and so I want to discuss that with you for a second here. So I'll minimize down here. So here is the peer review feedback assignment description rubric. This is where you'll find the items, right? The two-component report peer review forum, and then I've gone ahead and added the two-component report kind of description and rubric right there, just for your FYI. The peer review feedback description assignment description rubric is fairly detailed about the different ways of which you would, how you would post them, you're posting to a draft and things like that. So please do note those. So most of you, I feel very confident most of you did put a substantial draft, so good job. And then, so you've titled your thread, and then when you locate one, because you're going to download it, it's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So it might not be a bad idea to put this right here where it says, for example, I so-and-so will provide feedback on so-and-so's draft. Because this way it ensures that feedback isn't posted while other peers are still reading a draft. And that way, remember, one of the goals of the peer review feedback is that every group, or excuse me, every report that you see posted on there gets a minimum of 2 scans through, right? And if some get 3 or 4 with more groups than we have individuals, I think that's going to be very possible to happen. So I appreciate just if you remain aware and cognizant of that and make sure that that happens. I greatly appreciate that. So then you download it and then you post feedback here. All right. It says use the feedback, use the rubric for the assignment, right? So that would be the so we went back to Blackboard where we went through here with the very last selection is the two-component report. Assignment and assignment sheet, assignment description, and rubric. So you might want to use that as a reference. All right. And then there is advice in the supporting text listed below, which we'll talk about in a second. Structure your feedback. Make sure you're giving constructive criticism, i.e. feedback that helps the author make substantive changes. So in other words, so let's say, for example, you're talking about formatting. Let's say that one of the things that I've been kind of preaching since week 1 and week 2 is a hierarchy. So make sure you pay attention to how the headings are listed, if they are in a sans serif font, and that there is a serif font perhaps in the body paragraphs, right, and they're using their headings, and that they're consistent, things of that nature. You can make a comment to say something along the lines, check your font to make sure you're using hierarchy or sans serif font or serif font. And sometimes it's difficult to see on here, I realize that. So, but if you download them and open them up in your own Word documents, that sometimes helps because you can then highlight it and see what it is. Then you do it a second time, repeat those steps, and then here is that link when we read McMurray earlier, and he talks about excellent ways. Right here's the link again of how to, some good strategies for peer reviewing and team writing. So obviously pay attention to the peer review section of that, and it's a smaller section, so you might take note of that. So pretty standard. We've done this before. This is not new information, obviously, but I did want to at least touch base with you regarding that assignment. So again, here's the two-component report, the actual assignment description rubric, if you wanted to pull that up and look at that, because this is what I'll be using, obviously, when I grade your two-component reports and I start looking at them, even providing feedback as I am currently. So, so we can skip down here to the rubric itself. Is the executive summary written concisely, clearly, persuasively for the decision makers? Does the discussion section provide sufficient and persuasive information and interpretation for the implementers, right? So that's all that's talking about audience and purpose, right? Is it going to get is your purpose going to be clear in the executive summary? And does the discussion section, is it taking this audience right here into consideration? It's technical report solidly based in adequate research, right? So you've got primary, secondary sources. The research include information from the primary and secondary sources, right? So if you have a references page, or you see someone has a references page and they have 8 or 9 references, and maybe you only see 3 or 4 of them, you might respond to make sure something like make sure you use all your sources in your discussion section, especially, right? So content organization, executive summary, highlight the problem. Is discussion section well organized? Sections, the discussion move from general statements to particular details, right? Make sure because it's easy to do general statements, right? And so a lot of times all my feedback that I give to you is like, okay, this is really good general information. We just got to make sure we put in a lot of those details and some of that specificity, all right? So looking at that, format design, do we have good page design? Visuals well integrated, right? We need to have the 3 visuals. We have APA documentation style. Are the grammar mechanics perfect? I don't know if there's such thing as perfect grammar mechanics, but there are. Anyway, there's grammar mechanics. Obviously, are an issue, and so we'll take a look at those as well. And the style appropriate to a professional audience, and a lot of that really speaks to the fact that we're not using colloquialisms or some same type of words and phrases or whatever that we might have a conversation with one of our peers or one of our buddies or whatever. This is written in a professional tone, professional style, we might say. All right, so that's kind of a basic overview for that. Okay, come on. All right, now there I am. Okay, all right, so week 11, skedaddling right along. Week 12, next week, the 2 component reports are due. Can't remember if it's next Wednesday or Friday. We'll take a look at that later on in the week. And again, just as a reminder, I'll be leaving for a cycling event next week. And so I'll be getting back. I'll have access to Wi-Fi, and of course, everything will still be going as usual from there. All right. All right, so I wish you all one most wonderful week. Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Bye. Thanks for watching.